Hello, all you gorgeous, beautiful, wonderful human beings, and welcome to the Too Busy Being Worthy podcast, where we talk about conscious living and mindfulness while sharing our active journeys in creating a safe emotional home within, and doing so living in our most authentic expressions. Now, if you happen to be watching for the first time, welcome. We are so glad to have you in our humble abode. And we hope to, well, at least today, I hope to give you some potent advice that can help you navigate your emotions easier and figure out life one step at a time and just get through this thing, not being an absolute existential dread. And if you are coming back, welcome back. I am so glad to see your lovely face again. Even though I can't actually see you, like I'm imagining it, visualizing it in my head right now. And you are so beautiful, so wonderful. And I love to see you again. Now, let us stop and take a moment to embrace and give ourselves that comfort, that care, and compassion that we all deserve because you are worthy, valuable, and so being awesome simply just for being. So do not worry about any of life's stressors when we come into this energy field because over here we are too busy being worthy. My name is Garrett, and as you can see, I am by myself today. Me and my co-host Anna, we had a little bit of a scheduling conflict, so I just said, not to fret. I can just record this solo episode and hold down the fort this week because this week's topic is something that I'm actually very passionate about, and I've had quite a few things come into my life that have really reinforced this narrative that I'm about to talk about. And it is related to something that I say in the intro every episode when we record, and it is creating a safe emotional home within. Now, if you haven't watched before, just to kind of give you a rundown of what this podcast is all about and the goal of the messages that we try to communicate every week is we just want to help people navigating their 20s go through life with a little bit more hope and optimism because there can be a lot of pressure in society to figure your whole life out in your 20s, and we might get into comparisonitis where we can look at somebody else's timeline and think, "Oh, wow, like, they are so much further ahead, and they have a family, they have this great amount of career success, they have a house, car," whatever the case may be. But everything is gonna happen in due time, and as someone who definitely had a vision for their own life around the age that I am right now and to see my life not necessarily be that, I want to share with you how I was able to let go of that narrative that I was telling myself that I needed to have and to just enjoy life and not be so worried about the monetary things placing value on me as a person, but just walking knowing my value and no matter what your external circumstances look like in life to just have faith and keep pushing forward. And as long as you move with the desired energy that you want in life, you can do that. But back to today's topic, creating a safe emotional home within. How I view creating a safe emotional home inside is essentially being able to move in life without fear, being able to stand on your own and put yourself in uncomfortable situations and go after the things that you want in life without needing other people's permission, getting other people's approval, or feeling like you need some sort of green light to go, but just knowing that that green light comes within. And specifically, someone who has grown up with an anxious attachment style, I've definitely had a lot of challenges with being safe internally and putting myself out there because I always had a fear of people's reactions. You know, growing up, I definitely was in an environment that had a lot of love, and I knew that I was cared for, and I definitely was looked after financially. I had a roof over my head and clothes on my back. And I'm very grateful for all of that because there are definitely people who can be in worse situations. However, the needs that I had to be met emotionally weren't met by a very influential figure in my life who was very pivotal in shaping me as a person and, just kind of who I looked at and saw as someone to model after. Because, when you are in those developmental years and you have those people around you who are in your vicinity 24/7, that is where you look to in order to get whatever needs met that you need to be fulfilled in order to survive. And when you're a child, you don't know how to communicate those needs because you obviously aren't taught. We are literally learning how to speak. So the only frame of reference that we have to communicate is from our caregivers. And when our caregivers don't necessarily have the language to communicate their needs and impart knowledge on you that shows you how you can communicate things to them in a healthy manner, you aren't going to receive that back. And this figure who I was very influenced by, I had to kind of morph and warp myself in order to be in their good graces. They definitely did show me a lot of love, and their love language is gift giving. So I would get a lot of things. And, from an outside perspective, one could look at that and say, oh man. And I was an only child too. So it's just like, oh, you're an only child. You're getting spoiled. You get all these gifts all the time. I bet you get everything you want. And I got a lot of stuff. Yes. But that care and compassion really was absent for me. Um, I definitely, just didn't have a lot of space to express myself emotionally without, being told how I should articulate myself, and the thing is, I wasn't necessarily taught how to articulate myself, but I was told this is what I shouldn't do. So whenever I said something that would trigger whatever I triggered in this individual, I would receive a backlash and be told to not speak to this individual that way or to be respectful, but I wasn't necessarily shown how to be respectful. So I didn't know how to express myself, so it caused me to be very quiet, and I had to tiptoe around and just, like, figure out the right things to say in order to be in this person's good graces, and kind of what I fell into was just doing whatever this individual told me to do because that was all I knew how to do in order to survive. So, basically just following orders for lack of a better term and, kind of being moved around like a chess piece the way that I needed to be moved in order to keep this individual happy and to survive. And then because I never had a stable being within myself and I was never taught how to be stable emotionally, I would go into the outside world and cultivate relationships with people where I kind of follow the same formula of, okay, I need to find out how to make people happy and get social acceptance because the way that I got acceptance in my household was just kind of like doing whatever this person wanted me to do. So I would crave connection with people and I would overextend myself and give others a lot of energy in order to get them to like me. And then if there was just like a small shift in their behavior and I saw that, they maybe weren't completely I don't even wanna say completely satisfied with me because now I have the awareness to know that not everything is due to my actions, and sometimes people just have their own things that are going on in their lives that have nothing to do with you, but whenever I just felt like somebody's energy was off and they didn't approach me with the most warmth and welcoming nature ever. I thought, "Oh, wow, like, I must have did something wrong, and clearly this has something to do with me because they aren't being consistent with me." And that's always been a big trigger of mine is, like, people not showing up consistently in relationships, and then this would cause me to, overextend myself and, constantly ask what's wrong and try to figure things out, and I would make a lot of assumptions, and then whenever I would come to this person with my issue, whoever I was in relationship with, I would come with the assumption that, okay, clearly you're thinking this. And since you're thinking this, let me explain why, for lack of a better term, you're wrong for thinking this. And I didn't even know what they were thinking. I was just like making an assumption as to what was wrong. And I didn't even know to ask maybe what they're going through or even just like have understanding for other people's lives and realize that people do go through their own shit. And once you have enough experiences with people like this, you start to realize that coming off in that way, you get the bare minimum from people because one, you don't have standards and you're uneasy and obsessive. So, this was a consistent cycle that I found myself in, and I didn't really know how to get myself out of it, but I just knew that I was in it with people. And before coming to the awareness that I have now, I never was really able to connect the chords and see how I acted in my household and just kind of how I internalized thing in my household was related to the things that showed up in my other relationships. And I feel like a lot of the times we might not necessarily connect those dots and really realize how much that our upbringing, however we were brought up, really influences how we show up in relationships. But if you don't come to that awareness, depending on what your experience is, and if you had an experience like mine, it can be very detrimental and not serving to you because you are walking around in survival mode, not knowing how to interact with people. And because you aren't stable and safe within, you have that codependency where whenever you get in a relationship with people, you need them to move a certain way and you almost might partake in manipulative tactics in order to like kind of keep people where you need them to be in order so for you to be good. And I really realized that I did a lot of that in my life. I always felt like I needed people to be in a certain position in order for me to feel good because I didn't feel safe within. So I would, keep a lot of tabs on people and really try to figure out what it is that was going on in their head without even talking to them. And I would create all these stories in my head, but I was so focused on the other person that I never really took the time to sit with myself and look at those uncomfortable emotions and really ask myself the tough questions as to why I do the things that I do. And I didn't even know where I could start looking for resources to make myself feel comfortable and to be safe in any circumstance that I found myself in. So that way I don't have to rely on other people's feelings about me or what I perceive their feelings about me to be in order to be and sit comfortably in any scenario. And that is something that I feel like is taken for granted and can be overlooked, is just our inherent worth as people. Like, depending on what life experiences you go through, it can be very, very, very difficult to really realize that we all have inherent worth and value as people because we can be brainwashed into thinking that you need to earn somebody's love or you need to earn your worthiness or your value as a human being, specifically with a lot of the things that are enforced in society and the capitalistic culture that we live in, as well as hustle culture. It's all about proving yourself and the value that you can bring to others, which I definitely do believe that we all are meant to bring value to each other, but not in the way that it is sold typically in the society we live in. But I believe that us simply being and living in our truths, coming to self acceptance, and then finding a way to articulate that in a way that the people and the sectors of the world that we are in can understand is what can be the key to all of our healing. Because we all are here for a reason. I really do not feel like any of our existence is a mistake or an accident. And when we can realize that we are all necessary pieces to the puzzle and we all are linked to each other and can just show each other ourselves and where we can grow in life, or maybe like what path we don't necessarily want to go down. We all have so much value that we can bring to each other. And it's just about recognizing that and recognizing our power. And that really comes with creating a safe space for you to hold compassion for yourself, to care for yourself, and to love on yourself, and to let yourself know that it is okay. Everything that you went through is not your fault. Yes, maybe you might have participated in a scenario where actions that you took could have not landed you in that specific scenario, and certain things that came your way maybe could have come in a different format, but it was all a part of the process. You had to go through those things in order to learn those lessons so that way you can know better in the future and to know that, hey, I don't need to overextend myself. I don't need to people please. I don't need to see this person react to me emotionally in a specific way in order for me to be good within. But I could be good within simply just by recognizing my power and emitting that energy that I am a worthy being. And I feel like when you are able to emit that and other people see that, it'll show them themselves. And if they look at themselves and decide, you know what? I am really triggered right now because this person recognizes their worth and I'm doing all of the things that I'm supposed to do that society tells me to do in order to be worthy and I still don't feel worthy. And this person is standing in their truth and that triggers me and you might get attacked for that. And if that is the case, even if that person says hurtful things, if you have that safe space in yourself emotionally to move past that and to not let that shake you or move you, then you are going to be good. And you honestly did that person a favor because even with them having that reaction, it shows them themselves and they are able to eventually, maybe one day down the road, take inventory regarding that incident where they spew that out towards you. And then they can say to themselves, back when I said those things about that person, that was really me projecting my insecurities and my sense of unworthiness onto them, and I am really starting to come to a place based on other experiences that I've had in my life where living in my truth and being authentic to myself is something that I actually desire, and seeing that person be in their truth was something that actually was really inspiring to me. However, I just couldn't see it at the time, and I didn't give myself permission to feel those things because I was still in the mental shackles that I placed myself in due to wanting to find acceptance from other people. But maybe they've come to a place where now that they can accept themselves and your presence was necessary for them to come to that realization. So, whatever experiences that we have in life, we are meant to show people themselves. And also, it can teach us a lot about ourselves and how we handle adversity and our ability to overcome adversity. And when you have moments in life when you are able to overcome, it is so inspiring. Like any moment that I've had in life where I have struggled to express myself freely and authentically because I was either scared of people's judgment or I was scared that I wasn't going to get the outcome that was desirable to me, it taught me so much about myself and one, what my desires truly were and what I could do in order to give myself what I truly desired in life. Because sometimes you might desire those external monetary things, but what you really desire is love, acceptance, a feeling of value and worthiness. And everything that we experience externally, we can give ourselves. It's all about just knowing how to do that and doing daily practices to strengthen that sense of worthiness within you so that way you can always fill your own cup up. And even when you have moments where you might feel triggered, you have the toolkit to realize, okay, this has something to do with the things that I was socialized with, but how true is this to me and my own wants and desires? And then once you are able to realize what your actual wants and desires are, and you have come across things that have allowed you to fill your own cup up, you can walk into any situation with that sense of safety and security. And then once you emit that, then the things that are meant to come into your life, the people who are meant to come into your life, they're going to be magnetized towards that because safety is attracted to safety. When you are uneasy and disgruntled and trying to scramble and look for how to be safe, you're gonna attract that disgruntled and scrambling energy as well because people who are safe within aren't gonna wanna have to take on that burden of uneasiness and anxiousness because that is gonna be draining. And if you are an anxious person and you don't know how to fill another person's cup up, then you aren't going to be able to give that safe space what they need in order to really pour into you as much as they can because a relationship is a two-way street. And just like they're giving to you, they also have their own needs that are going to be met. So a safe and secure person is going to be looking for somebody else who is safe and secure and who has the emotional intelligence to be able to put their ego or pride aside and have the courage to move past their fears in order to sit down and have the tough conversations with them and to figure out how to do life together and to move through it in a mature manner where both people can have as much peace as possible. So, really just learning how to cultivate that safe and secure place within is what is going to allow the abundance of safety and security to come into our lives. And one of the methods that I have used to cultivate a sense of safety and security within myself is focusing on the things that are going good in my life or the things that bring me a lot of happiness and joy and that come to me very naturally and get me in that flow state. Because when you have perceived problems in life, and let's say your perceived problem is your anxious attachment or just like your emotional instability within, you aren't going to be able to find a fix for said problem because you are constantly in the problem. I grew up with a lot of social anxiety, so putting myself in social circumstances was something that always terrified me, and before going into those social settings, I would always replay, "Okay, like, what is gonna happen? I'm gonna do this when this person says this," and, "Ooh, like, I just don't know how the situation is gonna play out," and there would just be a lot of thoughts that would ramble through my brain, and I would focus so much on trying to avoid that anxious feeling or just what I would do if that anxious feeling would come that it would increase the anxiety even more because I was getting anxiety about those predicted outcomes that could happen and how I would handle that. And then, oh, like, well, then what will I do if it goes haywire and things don't play out the way that I would like for them to play out? So, if you sit in the energy of a problem, a solution won't come and you are going to amplify that problem in your life. And what you put your mind on and constantly think about is what is going to manifest. So if you're constantly thinking about your problem, your problem, your problem, you're just going to create more of that problem. And another thing too is try to think of a solution about the problem. Like even with what I'm saying right now of focus on things that bring you happiness, which can just naturally bring solutions to perceived problems in your life. If you go into pursuing those things that bring you happiness with the intention of, "Oh, okay, if I do this, then it's going to fix my problem," you're still sitting in the energy of the problem, and the problem isn't truly going to go away because even, like, when you're doing those things that can bring you happiness, you still have the problem in the back of your mind, and you aren't allowing your mind to be completely free to just receive information, receive that abundance, that joy, and to put you in an energy state where you can really open your eyes to what is meant for you in life. Because sometimes our perceived problems are meant to teach us a lesson and they might not necessarily need to be solved. But what we need is for them to show us where to move in life. And it can allow us to be more in tune with our intuition, and our intuition is really that guiding force that shows us what we are meant to have and where we're meant to go. And sometimes the things that we want, which is connected to the problems that we had because we say to ourselves, "Oh, we have this problem because this barrier is not allowing me to get what I want." What you want might not necessarily be what you need. And that is a lesson that I have had to learn the hard way many times in life. So really just letting go of your perceived problems and stepping in the energy of abundance, of freedom, of flow, um, and focusing on the things that you are proud of and just have a lot of good energy surrounding can allow you to cultivate tools that can truthfully benefit you in life. Like for me, my flow state was being in fashion. I went to school to become a fashion stylist and I majored in fashion merchandising. And playing around with clothing really gave me a lot of confidence in high school because prior to then, I struggled a lot socially and obviously was craving social acceptance so much that it was very crippling for me, and I just didn't know how to express myself, but fashion was an outlet for me to express myself and really have the freedom to find out who I was, and there was no pressure of having to live up to certain expectations, to being this specific individual, and I didn't place a lot of anxiety on myself to perform. It just was a state where I could be free and just be happy, and I gained a lot of confidence through that, and then I really felt called to become a fashion stylist, and that was the chosen career path that I went down, and it allowed me to, step into things that I would have never stepped into, like being public facing and sitting here talking in a podcast right now because I did a lot of promotion and putting myself out there. And I was willing to have the courage to overcome a lot of fears that I had because I was so passionate about this thing that my fears were trumped by my desire to be in fashion and truly express myself. And it ended up unknowingly helping me in a lot of areas in life because I didn't go into it with the intention of learning how to relate to people and figuring out people's needs, as well as communicating messages that I feel like people needed to hear in order to just gain more confidence and be themselves. Like that was never an intention that I had with fashion. All it was a vehicle for me to gain confidence as well as be in my optimal state of joy and not feel pressure to conform or to do anything in life, which is something that I felt a lot prior to stepping into that space. But that space provided me a platform to not feel that pressure. And as a result of not feeling that pressure, I was able to learn a lot of lessons about myself, life, and people that I didn't even know that I needed to learn. And then through that journey of wanting to be in fashion and being self-motivated and, putting my own name out there, I was able to, learn a lot about social interactions as well as marketing and just how to appeal to people while being my most authentic self, and by that time, because I was so confident in what I did, that I was able to do it naturally, freely, and just it was just such a flow because I didn't even have to think about it. So, presenting myself to people wasn't anything, and it's not something that I had anxiety about because I knew what I was talking about, and I had such confidence and conviction in myself that it allowed me to step out and acquire new skills that I didn't even know that I needed, and I was able to, just turn on that switch, and that confidence that I got from that trickled into so many other areas in my life, and it started to give me more confidence socially, as well as just being seen and, being open to other people's perceptions. That's something that I had feared so much in my life, and in the past, I would always think about how I needed to get past that because I low key did want to be seen and heard, but because of the past situations that I've been in where I wasn't seen and heard, or my emotions just weren't really held in high regard, I didn't know where to go or what to do in order to get that. But fashion ended up being that for me. However, that wasn't my intent with that. And my main intention was just to be happy and to be fulfilled in life. So I would implore anybody looking to create a safe emotional home within to just focus on the things in your life that currently do bring you joy and fulfillment in some capacity, even if it's on a very small scale. Just hone in on that and really focus on that. And whenever you get up and get on with your day, if you have that to look forward to, focus all of your attention on that thing and really just allow yourself to be immersed in it and to let that bring you a lot of happiness. Instead of focusing on all the things that are going wrong, just really focus on what's going right and allow yourself to be happy. And when you are constantly in the state of joy, freedom, excitement, and optimism, it can give you a new perspective on life and can give you the wherewithal to move through life in a way that really just ensures your greatest amount of joy at all times, which can then potentially trickle into other areas of life. And if it doesn't trickle into other areas of life, then that's okay too, because maybe those things in life that you feel like are problems are things that aren't actually problems. So I would say just focus on things that bring you joy and fulfillment and that can really help you create a safe emotional home within. Another thing that I feel like can be really helpful in creating that safe space inside is to just detach from all of the external things that you feel like you need in order to validate you and really hone in on what your feelings are telling you and just allow that internal compass to guide you. Because I know for me, being anxiously attached, I mentioned earlier, I needed people to move a certain way in order for me to be comfortable. And if I would speak my truth or just live authentically, I would worry about how it would make them feel, and then if they felt a sense of uncomfortability and then projected that onto me, then that would be uneasy for me, and going into adulthood, before I acquired the tools that were necessary to, figure out how I could stand on my own without needing other people's permission for me to express myself comfortably, that inner child would speak to me and say, Garrett, I don't know if you want to do this because I've experienced this before and it didn't feel good. And you need to detach from that inner child and let that person know that it's okay. Garrett Farrell is 25 right now, and a 25-year-old can handle the life circumstances that they are currently going through on their own, and you don't need to steer the ship. Because realistically, a lot of how we move through life is steered by that inner child because that inner child has experienced things in their past that have caused them to feel a certain way. And because they haven't worked through those things, they're always inside of you, trying to claw up and protect you from familiar circumstances that present themselves in present day that that inner child doesn't want to feel again. However, we can't let that child steer the ship because as we gain insight and learn more about ourselves and the world, we realize that people are going to have their own perspectives and life experiences that shape what they do. And all we can control is ourselves and how we move through the world. And if we let that inner child that is anxiously attached constantly come up and have those reactions that they had in order to survive, they aren't going to create fruitful relationships that can move them in a different direction in life, but they're going to create those same habits because the habits that you formed in order to survive with whoever inflicted that pain on you, that strategy works for people who exhibit those character traits. So you're going to attract people with the exact same character traits and are going to constantly be in survival mode. However, when you are able to detach from that child and realize that, okay, I can't keep going about life the same way. And if I want to attract a different energy and different people in my life who can provide me a sense of safety, I need to have that safety within myself and go about doing things in a manner that isn't the same that it was at that point in life. And to be realistic, we can't let that inner child run the show because children don't have insight. The only insight that children have is that one experience that they had with a caregiver or whoever was in their immediate environment at that time who acted in those ways that caused that response. But children don't have highly developed emotional intelligence. They don't have a understanding of the broad strokes of life and all of the various experiences that people go through, as well as an understanding of themselves, and they don't even have a sense of self developed. So allowing that inner child to run the show is going to keep you in survival mode. And since they don't have the insight that the adult version of you has that allows you to move through life in a more mature manner and has allowed you to explore different things in life, you will end up not being able to move forward if you keep listening to that child. So being able to detach from them and listen to the adult version of you and let that guide you is going to be very beneficial in creating a safe emotional home within. And along with that, once you are able to detach from any past experiences that might plague you, it allows your mental, emotional, and physical being to all be aligned in the present moment. Because a lot of the times our chords can be very raveled, kind of like any sort of extension cord or charger that you might have where you just kind of stuff into the suitcase. And then because it gets jumbled around, it's all tangled up and twisted and contorted. And that's how our chords are with the connection to our past, present, and the future. And a lot of the times we have emotional experiences that can send signals to our bodies that have happened to us in the past. And when we come across things that trigger that emotional time that we were in because it feels very familiar, our body, which is in the present, feels what our emotions are telling us, which are in the past. So we are really placing ourselves back in the past and we are very disgruntled and disorganized, and we aren't able to truly be present with the people in our lives and really be able to hear them and understand what their needs are and potentially meet them because we are so focused on the past experiences that we had. We're viewing the people who are in front of us as the people who hurt us in the past. And we're really having interactions with those past circumstances or those past people, but we aren't present in the moment with the person who is sitting right in front of us. And allowing ourselves to come to an understanding of them because our hardwiring is all jumbled up and the body is connected to the past, but is not connected to the present moment. But when we are able to detach from what happened to us way, way, way back in the day and are able to reaffirm that inner child and let them know that we got this now, we're steering the ship, our past comes forward and our future comes back. And everything that we're thinking about as far as what happened to us in the past and what could happen in the future if we do this, because a lot of the times when we live in the future, it's us trying to run away from the past. But when we let go of the past, which then can also allow us to not be so concerned about the future, and we can bring the future back to where we are right now, everything is in alignment and all of our wheels are moving in the same direction. So we are able to move through life freely and abundantly because we realize that all we have is the present moment. We are the creators of our reality, and we need to be in it in order to create that reality. We're not going to create it in our heads thinking about the future. We're not going to create it harboring onto the emotional experiences that we had into the past. We're going to create it by being in the here and the now and being receptive to everything that life has to offer us, and then seeing how we can take the tools that we are gathering and be a creator and create the life that we desire and the experience that we desire. And that requires you to be here, living day by day in your truth, authentically, being comfortable in your body with that safe emotional space, and just having confidence and courage and being willing to be vulnerable and stand in truth. Because for me, choosing vulnerability and truth for my life's path is truly what has led me to this moment right now, sitting here talking to whoever is watching this and shining the light that is my consciousness onto you and hoping that it can give you a glimmer of hope to walk the path that you are meant to walk down. And if I never had the moments that I had that have brought me to the awareness that I'm at right now, then I would not have ever been able to provide that. So we all are here for a reason. All of our existence matters. We are all worthy. We just got to sit in that. And my hope is to let all of you know your worth and that you can spread your light to the people in your life and, just make a difference. And we can all create the reality that we desire to create. So that is all for this episode. I feel like I've been yapping on for a while now, but hopefully you got some useful nuggets from that and you can take whatever you need from this and use it to create a safe emotional home within yourself and just live in your most expansive, authentic truth. If you love this, please make sure that if you're watching on YouTube to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure that you rate us 5 stars because me and my co-host, who isn't here today, and I miss her so much, but we are both just your favorite young, sexy, amazing hosts that y'all just live for. So yeah, get into us. And I hope that you all have an amazing day. Take care.